HAND itself refers to the damage HIV specifically does to people's brains. And it causes an infection in some key brain cells, and that leads to the immune system coming in, causing inflammation and damage. HIV dementia, or the HAND disorders, are the commonest cause of dementia in young adults globally. And I guess, in a sense, what the good news is that it is treatable, unlike, say, Alzheimer's disease or some of the other dementias that the community might be familiar with. And there are 3 disorders, which one is about having an asymptomatic problem, where you have to be formally investigated to find it. The second form of HAND is a milder problem, where individuals have mild symptoms that affect their capacity to work and live in their home life at optimum capacity. And the third category within HAND is HIV dementia, where individuals really have considerable impairment and won't be able to work or run a household with their usual level of autonomy and efficiency.
The most common form of HAND these days that we would see is minor neurocognitive disorder, and people who experience that would sometimes report, apart from just forgetfulness, slowing in the way they process their thoughts, some difficulties in planning and organisation, forgetting appointments, just like a slowing down of their normal processes.
I've got plethores of pads all over the place, writing pads, and I write myself notes, and then eventually I enter them into my Google tablet so that I've got, the future set out.
So if you're a person living with HIV and you notice some signs or symptoms like your concentration's not so good, or you're a bit forgetful, you have difficulty concentrating or finding the right word, and this persists over time, don't dismiss it as being old age. Lots of people say, oh, I'm old, but really they're not. They're in their 40s, 50s, 60s. That's not old age. That might be something that could be reversed. It might be you're anxious or depressed, you're in a difficult situation financially or socially. It might mean that you're drinking a little bit too much or taking ecstasy on the weekends. It might mean that HIV is affecting your brain. We don't know. But what we do know is that it's really worthwhile going and talking to your HIV care provider about it. And if one of your mates or friends or somebody you trust may bring it up that you seem a bit different or a bit forgetful, generally people mean really well. And if they've noticed it, it's probably worthwhile giving yourself a chance to think about it and say, yeah, maybe this is true and I'm going to do something about it.
I think it'd be a shame if attempts to create greater community awareness about HAND led people to be unnecessarily fearful or anxious about the consequences of living with the virus. This is something that they could do something about.
Of people who are HIV positive, up to 1 in 5 people may develop HAND. So if you're an HIV positive person and you're not yet on treatment and you're worried about HIV dementia, what we do know is one of the leading risk factors for developing HIV dementia is having a weakened immune system and lower CD4 T cells. Even as low as less than 350 CD4 cells can put you at greater risk for HIV dementia, and that risk gets even higher when your T cells are less than 200. So if you want to protect your brain's health, we certainly recommend starting treatment as soon as, certainly wait no later than less than 350 CD4 cells. And indeed, some individuals are starting treatment with much higher CD4 cells than that. But treatment seems to be the greatest prevention of dementia. And broadly, we know for everyone in our community, whether you're HIV positive or not, that staying healthy, sleeping, eating well, exercising, moderate alcohol intake, not smoking, all those factors do lead to greater mental and cognitive health. And I think that that's a very broad approach that you can take over the course of your life, and I think it will carry individuals and carry HIV positive individuals very well.
Even before younger onset dementia and everything else, we knew that too much alcohol does organic brain damage. And so the way I managed it was I halved my consumption, then sometime later when I'm comfortable with that level, I'll halve it again. And then I'll get comfortable with that level, and so on, and work my way down the scale. It's important to include a healthy exercise to the best of your ability to maintain fitness into later years.
And also particularly important is the degree of social connectedness and the degree of social isolation that we have. That has a real and important impact on our mental health.
The thing about cooking is that I get great enjoyment from, because I cook for 4 always, so I'm not cooking every night. But the enjoyment that will be had when I get to share the meal with whoever I share it with, and it takes away my pain. So it makes me happy to cook. People in my life certainly commented on my memory, because once I'd had a sleep I didn't remember what they said yesterday.
We encouraged the person to be quite open about the difficulties they're having. We find that if people say to their family and friends, look, I have a problem with my memory, please forgive me if I ask you the question again. Generally speaking, people are very accommodating. I think the problem when you hide a difficulty is that people constantly become frustrated with you and they think, well, I told them that before, I don't understand why they keep asking me. Sometimes honesty is the best policy.
Yes, it's important to have people around you who are aware of your limitations and can offer to help. In many cases you can still complete things. A person with YOD will complete the things that they would have completed, but it's slower.
The help that we can give someone with a diagnosis of hand is support, information about where to go for services, strategies on how to manage tasks, some counselling when they're finding that they're somewhat overwhelmed by the diagnosis and all the impact that has on their life, and trying just connect them to support groups and maybe meeting other people with a similar diagnosis so that they can get some support from them too. And we act as a support person. We're here just on the end of the phone to be available to people if they've got a question or a concern about something.
When I first came to see my key worker at Alzheimer's Australia, she took a history and explained her role, which was not to intervene or make decisions for me, but to act as a sounding board. And of course, I made use of that facility several times, and it was something as simple as I had 5 things to do and I couldn't decide a priority, and I'd been working on it for a couple of days. And I rang the key worker and we talked it through, and with the extra input, I was able to come to a decision in which I felt confident was the correct one. And the other thing that Alzheimer's Australia offers is a luncheon for the younger onset dementia group, and I've been only to one of those, but it was a lot of fun and I'll come back again.
And the idea of the cafe is to, so he can get in touch with other people his own age who've got similar diagnosis and hear about how they manage their life.
The HIV program provides consultancy, education, clinical care to clients in the home and community, and the program is integrated, importantly, with the Victorian AIDS Council HIV services, so we can link people in immediately for volunteer support, legal advice, counselling and other services that they provide there at VAC, and similarly they can refer straight back to us. Some people do need assistance with their medicines and how they're going to manage them, and we can come into the home and advise them on what the medicines actually are, when to take them, how to take them, whether they need to be taken before food or after food, side effects to watch out for. We can come and monitor their side effects. We can fill a dosette box for them so that they can then self-manage from that. Staying connected socially is really important for cognitive health, and depending on the client's interests and wishes, we can help link them in with local services. Say a group could be a sporting interest or a book club or whatever in their local area.
Living Positive Victoria has programs which build the health literacy and the health promotion skills of people living with HIV. We have peer support programs, and we also advocate for people living with HIV as individuals and also on major policy issues. We have very good evidence that peer support is one of the most effective ways of engaging with people with a chronic illness, which can be socially isolating. Having discussions with people that have that lived experience is particularly important for people living with HIV. It's not only meeting people face to face, there are also several online groups and studies out there now where people can connect online in a safe environment. And I've been very impressed with how some of those groups have developed, where people can ask about, especially about stigmatizing conditions like mental health, and just saying, I have an issue or I have experienced mental health. How have other people dealt with this? There are other people out there who have similar experiences, and they are perhaps your first port of call to connect to and to begin to have that conversation, which can be somewhat challenging. And they will understand and will have had experiences to where you're coming from, and will have suggestions as to about what the next steps can be.